Hi, this is Mary Kopczynski, the CEO of RegAlytics, and I'm here with a warning that my kid is home and there is no camp, and my husband is traveling, and there was a gas leak in our building today. Not my unit, thankfully, but we did evacuate. So all the windows are open, my oven doesn't work, and this is just how my hair is going to look. And let's not forget that next Monday, the big episode of Jammin Plannin featuring yours truly playing the piano is going to drop. So get ready and get excited. But nothing, not even this kid, is going to stop me from giving you an update on this week's 28,998 regulatory alerts. Because when you have it all in one place, categorized so you can compare apples to apples, you can see really quickly what's going on. Now, I know I have been working through the One Big Beautiful Bill lately, but I'm taking a break this week because there were just so many fascinating alerts. Starting with our regulator of the week, which is China, and the topic of the week, which is human rights. But before I get to China, I want to share a little context about the United States and our own human rights record. And yes, this is from my PhD program in global affairs, so I just happen to know it off the top of my head. But the U.S. historically is one of the loudest and most judgmental voices in the world when it comes to human rights. In fact, Eleanor Roosevelt led the charge to get the United Nations to sign the Universal Declarations of Human Rights in 1948. Every year, our State Department issues a report on other countries' abuses, and we regularly use those findings to justify sanctions, aid decisions, and diplomatic pressure. But here's the catch. We often don't sign or ratify the very same treaties we expect everyone else to follow. For example, we never ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and we are literally the only UN member not to ratify it. We also didn't sign the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. The official line is usually something like, those treaties don't meet our high standards, but to many around the world, it looks just like straight hypocrisy. And right now, with highly publicized immigration roundups and deportations making headlines, that hypocrisy is on display more than ever. So with that context, it is not surprising that other countries retaliate by pointing out our flaws, especially China, every single year. Most of the time, our flaws are not as bad as, let's say, Eritrea's. But China's State Council Information Office just released its 2024 Human Rights Report, and this one was especially harsh. I read the summary in RegAlytics and did a double take and went directly to the real Chinese site summary. And with the assistance of Google Translate, I read it and wow, we just do not look that great. So I'm quoting here. The report points out that humanitarian crisis at the U.S. border continues to worsen, with migrants facing torture and inhumane treatment and large numbers of migrant children being exploited and enslaved. U.S. immigration policy is deeply intertwined with political elections, with politicians openly inciting hatred against immigrants. And then on our guns, the report pointed out the United States' high inflation has exacerbated the gap between the rich and the poor. Low and middle income families have suffered catastrophic impacts, and the number of homeless people has reached a new high. The expensive and inefficient medical and insurance systems have triggered public anger, and drug abuse has endangered people's health. Gun violence threatens life safety. Police abuse violence disregard human lives, and prisoners in prisons are abused. And China isn't the only one connecting human rights abuses this week. The Communication Workers of America filed charges with the National Labor Relations Board against Concentrix for unlawfully firing 2 workers after they spoke out about dehumanizing working conditions and the impact of AI in call centers. Their case highlights issues like surveillance, work intensification, and frustrated customers dealing with AI-generated interactions. And since we're on AI, in New York, lawmakers introduced the Fundamental AI Act, which will require transparency related to the use of generative AI in news media. It mandates that any content created substantially by AI must clearly disclose this fact to consumers at the top of the written content or verbally at the start of audio. And of course, to process all that AI, we need massive data centers. So California's Senate Bill 57 is moving ahead with a hearing this week. The legislation mandates the Public Utilities Commission to establish a special rate structure for data centers by July of 2026. And the goal is to protect residential ratepayers and small businesses from cost shifts while they make massive investments in the electrical grid to support data centers. Last but not least, this was amazing. The DoD announced that they have already met all of their recruitment goals this year and that women are leading the way. Female enlistments are up to nearly 24,000 in 2025 compared to 16,000 the year before. And that's it this week for RegAlytics. We have the global supply chain of the world's regulatory alerts in one very easy to use place. If you need a solution for anything related to regulation, give us a call.